we have been doing, as I said, is been borrowing totally to finance this war. In our book with Linda Bilmes, we estimated that the cost of the Iraq War will be over $3 trillion. Some of this is budgetary cost, $1.5 to $2 trillion. Some of it is cost borne to our economy that goes beyond the budget. Cost to families, about a fifth of the families in which somebody's been seriously injured, somebody has to give up a job to care for the person who has been injured. And this war has had a large number of very serious injuries. We estimate that over 40% of those returning from Iraq are coming back with disabilities. And we will have to finance them. We'll have to pay for the health care. We have to pay for disability benefits. These are numbers that are not yet included in our national deficit and our national debt. These are bills that are yet due. We estimate that that bill itself is in excess of $600 billion. Since we did our book, since we went to press, new numbers coming out from the RAND study show that a third of the returning veterans are coming back with what are called invisible wounds. Traumatic brain injury, post-traumatic stress syndrome, serious depression. Again, huge costs that are going to be borne by our society, by our economy, by our taxpayers. So these are large costs. Now, the concern is that while the war has been very expensive, the president, the administration was not honest to us. When we went to war, Larry Lindsay, who was the chief economic advisor at the time, said it might cost $100 to $200 billion. He was rewarded for that glimpse of, you might say, part honesty, because of course it was a vast underestimate, by being fired. The administration said baloney, the total cost would be $50, $60 billion. We're now spending that amount of money every 3 to 4 months up front, not including the cost of paying for the veterans, the disability benefits, not including the cost of resetting the military because we've been using up equipment much more rapidly than we've been replacing it. But the saddest part of all of this is that while we've been spending so much money, while this huge debt has reduced our room for maneuver to address not only the economic crisis, but a whole set of other social problems that we face, we haven't even gotten security. What do we buy for this? Now, economists talk about the economic opportunity cost. What we could have done with $3 trillion, $2 trillion, $4 trillion. The mind boggles. The president talked about the problem of Social Security. It might bankrupt our country, he said. Well, the fact is, for about a sixth of the cost of the Iraq War, we could have put the Social Security system on sound financial grounds for the next 75 years or more. And we've created a gap, unfunded liability on disability that is equal to the gap that we had in Social Security. So that's just one example. The president said, America is one of the few countries that does not have finance health care for all its citizens, view that health care is a basic right. And Congress passed a bill to provide health care for poor children that don't have insurance. If they don't get health care, they can be scarred for life. The president said we could not afford it. We were talking about a few days of fighting in Iraq. And we're willing to sacrifice our children for a few days of fighting in Iraq. But that's the economic opportunity cost. But there's beyond that, the security opportunity cost. We aren't buying security. The world is a big world out there. Iraq is a little small place in that global map. Even if we got security in Iraq, it doesn't mean that we have global security. And we've seen that. Things have been going worse in Afghanistan, which was related to 9/11. Iraq was not related to 9/11. The death rate in Afghanistan is increasing. In fact, given the number of troops we have, the death rate now, I think, is actually greater than that in Iraq. Adjusted for the number of troops. Things are going badly in Pakistan. The conflict is expanding. So the point is that we haven't bought the security that Americans want. The bottom line, you ask the question, can we afford the war? We can afford security. We can't afford wasting money. We've been wasting money in Iraq. We've not been getting the security that we need. We've been wasting money more broadly in our military expenditures. We've been spending money, weapons that don't work against enemies that don't exist. We started fighting the war on terrorism. We didn't cut back on the Cold War expenditures. So the fact that, in the last 5 years, expenditures on military beyond the war on terrorism have increased $500 billion. Now, the answer is, can we afford this kind of largesse? Well, some people are doing very well. Halliburton stock has soared. But can we as a country afford it? I don't think so. I think we have to husband our resources, both if we want security and if we want a strong economy. If we don't have a strong economy, we won't have the resources to address not only our security needs, but all our other needs.